Church devotional series where we go through the entire Bible in 20 months. And we do so by reading 2 chapters a day. This morning, our focus is on Genesis 18 and 19, the story of Abraham and Lot. Now, behind me is my front door. When I step out of there this morning, I've got a whole lot of decisions to make. You can see my dogs sitting on the footpath over there. Am I going to take them for a walk? Am I not? Am I going to go into town? Am I not? But the reality is, those decisions have been simplified by massive life decisions that I have made already. Principle decisions, value decisions, faith decisions, where I'm living decisions have sort of profiled all my other decisions. There is a farmer who is part of our church who preaches from time to time. He entitled his sermon the other day, "The Decision Before the Decision." And that was his point. He was saying that the big decisions you make simplify the little ones that you have to make every day. And so that actually is a great context for this assessment of Abraham and Lot, because you'll remember they had to make a decision where they're going to live. Lot decided he was going to go and live in the plains of Sodom and Gomorrah. It was fertile, it was full of good things, and it was city, it was life, it was vibrant. And so he took his family among those in Sodom and Gomorrah, and he paid dearly for it, because now every day he had decisions to make. The debauchery in the city, the corruption in the city, the violence in the city, it impacted on his family. And it resulted in his wife dying. It resulted in incest in the family. It resulted in his kids giving birth to the Moabites and the Ammonites. His whole future was determined by where he was going to live and who he put his trust in. Now, the exact opposite was Abraham. He said, okay, you can go live there, my friend, but I am going to go and chase God, follow God. And Abraham lived under a tree, this great tree of Mamre. And it looked like, at face value, his life wasn't really as zhuzhy as Lot's. I mean, his wife was barren. He was pretty much alone. Sort of like a nomadic guy. He had all his people with him that traveled with him, but it didn't look like the snazzy existence that Lot was living. But this is what happens to Abraham. He gets a visit. He gets a visit from 3 angelic beings. 2 definitely were angels, and most people say that the third being was God himself, because he is called God in verse 13, 20, 26, 23. And in addition, he then leaves the party in chapter 19, and only 2 angels go in to go and destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. But Abraham had made this decision to follow God, to chase God. And while it didn't look so fancy day to day, the decisions he had to make were sort of sorted out long ago when he decided to follow God and to listen to God's voice. And so his decision that particular morning was, what am I going to do with these strangers at my door? It was God visiting him. It was his angels visiting him. And they prophesied over him and told him that he was called, and spoke about his future and spoke about his descendants to come. And when they had moved off, they were about to move off, Abraham then says to them, where are you going? And they're off to Sodom and Gomorrah to go and kill it. But he knows his nephew's down there. And so he pleads with God. He says, look, if there were 50 good people there, would you at least, so what's he doing? He's praying. Would you at least stay the execution? And then he says 40, 30, 20, all the way down to 10, maybe. And so what we see is Abraham being able to pray. He's being able to focus on other things. Why? Because his big decisions are made. Whereas Lot, he had no time to pray. He was running for his life. He was trying to survive, because the big decision before the decision had already been made for Abraham. So the question for me and for you today, and this is, I think, the challenge of these 2 chapters. If you seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, then all these other things get added to you. But if you chase the lifestyle, it comes with it debt and debauchery and complication and the family on the altar, and you walk that perilous line, that if you make that big decision, the little ones become very, very complicated. I pray for the grace today to rethink things and say, God, help us get the big decision right before we have to make the other little ones.